Hello, let's discuss on the specific immunity or acute immunity, or we can call it the third line of defense. What is this acute immunity? The resistance to disease that is being developed by the body during his or her lifetime is called as the acute immunity. Now, before discussing on this, let's first try to understand what are lymphoid organs. Lymphoid organs can be divided into two types. One is primary lymphoid organs and second is secondary lymphoid organs. So primary lymphoid organs are those organs where the B lymphocytes and the T lymphocytes, or the B cells and the T cells, develop and then mature. So these organs are called as the primary lymphoid organs. Example of primary lymphoid organs are bone marrow and thymus. So the B lymphocytes and the T lymphocytes both develop from the bone marrow, but the B lymphocytes develop and mature from the bone marrow. That is why this lymphocyte is called as the B lymphocyte or B cell. But in case of T lymphocytes, the T lymphocytes develop from bone marrow but mature from the thymus. Therefore, this lymphocyte is called as the T lymphocyte or T cell. So so after maturation of these B and T lymphocytes, the lymphocytes leave these primary lymphoid organs, that is bone marrow and thymus, and reaches to other lymphoid organs such as spleen, lymph nodes, even the lymph tissues of the respiratory and digestive tract. So these organs are called these lymphoid organs, where the matured B and T lymphocytes reach, are called as the secondary lymphoid organs. Now let's discuss on the cells that are involved in the acute immunity. There are two major groups of cells that are involved in the acute immunity. The first group of cells is the antigen presenting cell, and the second is the lymphocytes. Now let's discuss on antigen presenting cell, also called as APC. Antigen presenting cells are specialized non-phagocytic leukocytes that are formed from the bone marrow, but later on they migrate to the lymphoid organs like spleen, thymus, and even other lymph nodes and lymph vessels. Now, when an infection occurs in the body, the antigen presenting cells they reach at the sites of the infection and they begin to ingest the foreign particles, and they break down these foreign particles and display the peptide fragments of they display the peptide fragments of these foreign particles on their cell surface. So the cell surface carries major histocompatibility complex that is needed for the activation of the T cells for immune response. So T cells provide immune response once the cell surface of these antigens are being exposed through breaking down by the antigen presenting cells. The main groups of cells that are involved in antigen presenting cell are dendritic cells, macrophages, and even the B cells or the B lymphocytes. So the main functions of these antigen presenting cells are to present the processed antigen to the newly formed T cells or T lymphocytes, so that this T cell or T lymphocyte can activate the immune response. Now let's discuss on the second group of cells that are involved in acute immunity, that is lymphocytes. There are two groups of lymphocytes that are involved in this immune response. The first one is the B lymphocytes or the B cells, and the second is the T lymphocytes or T cell. The B lymphocytes are short-lived. These are short-lived and they survive only for a few days or weeks, and they are responsible for antibody-mediated immunity. That means these B lymphocytes or B cells, they produce different types or varieties of antibodies specific to the antigens to produce immunity to the body. So this B lymphocyte or B cell is an antibody-mediated immunity, provide antibody-mediated immunity. The B cells develop from the bone marrow, and it also mature from the bone marrow, and this matured bone marrow are carried to different part of the lymphatic organ. Therefore, this B cells are also called as the B lymphocytes. Now let's discuss on the mode of action of these B cell or B lymphocytes. The B cells are sensitized both by antigens as well as the helper T cells or the helper T lymphocytes. And activated B lymphocytes undergo division to form plasma cells. So this group of plasma cells that are formed by the division of the enlarged B lymphocytes are called as the clone. Now once these plasma cells are produced, once this clone of plasma cell are produced, the plasma cells begin to produce an army of proteins called as the antibodies, and these antibodies get circulated in the blood and lymph, and it provides resistance and fight against the antigen that enters into our body, forming the humoral immune system. So humoral here refers to the body fluid. Body fluid example is blood. So these B lymphocytes form a humoral immune system in the body. Now the second is the T lymphocytes or the T cells. These T lymphocytes or T cells have a long lifespan, surviving for months or years, and they are responsible for cellular immunity. Cellular immunity here refers to the cellular. Here it refers to the immunity to the infected cells. Let's say certain group of cells in our body become cancerous, then this T lymphocyte or T cell will provide the body immunity to this cancerous cell. That means they are protecting the other cells of the body from these cancerous cells in the body. Therefore these T lymphocyte or T cells also provide cellular immunity. Now these T cells, they develop from the bone marrow, but they migrate to the thymus where they mature, and then they are transmitted or transferred to different part of the lymphoid organs. Now let's discuss on the T lymphocyte, the mode of action of the T lymphocytes. The T cells are antigen specific, and they recognize as specific antigens. There are different types of T cells that are stimulated by different types of antigens. When a T cells comes in contact with the antigens, the T lymphocytes or the T cells begin to divide rapidly and form a clone of T cells. These clones of T cells has four types of cells. The first one is the helper T cell, the second is the killer T cell, the third is the suppressor T cell, and the fourth is the memory T cell. So out of this, the first T cell, that is the helper T cell, the killer T cell, and the suppressor T cell are called as the effector cells. Now let's discuss on all these four types of T cells. The first one is helper T cell. Helper T cell secretes substances that enhances or activate immune response in the body. The second is the killer T cell. Killer T cell, also called as cytotoxic T cells, destroy the cells having foreign antigens attached to their surfaces. The third is the suppressor T cell. The suppressor T cells inhibit immune response by releasing cytokines that suppresses the activity of other T cells in the B cells. And the last is the memory T cells. These memory T cells are being sensitized by the antigens, and they remain sensitive for future. That means all the immune responses that takes place during infection and during neutralization of this infection are being stored in the memory T cells, so that in the future, if the same antigen affect the body again, then this memory T cell will provide information to other helper to other T cells to provide immune response again. So this is the functions of different types of T cells. Now let's discuss on the type of immune response. There are two types of immune response, the primary and the secondary immune response. The primary immune response are the immune response that are produced. The first immune response that is being produced by the body when the body come into contact with the antigen for the first time. So this response is usually slow or negligible, and it declines rapidly. But this response is important because it helps to develop both the receptors and the memory cells, so that when the same antigen affect or attack the body for the second time, these memory cells will provide information for the immune response to this same antigen. Now, so the first initial or the initial immune response that is being produced by the body when it comes into contact with the antigen for the first time is called as the primary immune response. The second is secondary immune response. Secondary immune response are the immune response that is being produced when the body come into contact or encounter the same antigen for the second or the subsequent time. So this immune response is also called as the booster response, as the secondary response is more rapid and lasts longer than the primary immune response, and it may also sometimes may even last for a lifetime in the body of the individual. So due to this response, a person that is having survived let's take an example. A person sometime they develop resistance to chickenpox for a lifetime when they encounter this disease called chickenpox for once in their life. It is because they due to this secondary response, a person having survived one attack of the chickenpox or measles, they remain immune to this disease throughout their life. It is because of this secondary response, since the secondary response are quite rapid, and since they have the information that is being stored and being provided by the memory cells, so the responses are quite rapid, and they last longer and may even sometimes last for a whole lifetime. So it is due to this response that a person's body develop permanent resistance to these diseases.